In this film, we're going to look at various ways of enhancing the stereo image of a mix, looking at panning, stereo widening techniques, and an assortment of other tricks which are going to just allow us to take a mix where everything's pretty centrally placed and just stretch everything a little bit wider. Let's just have a listen to the mix as it stands right now. Okay, so short and sweet. Okay, let's just focus first of all on the drum parts. So we've got three of those. I've got a hi-hat part here, I've got a sort of beat loop which is here, and then I've got a pair of toms which are here. And it's this pair of sounds that I'm going to just focus on straight away. So within Logic, I've put these in a track stack. That basically means that I've got one fader with some EQ and some compression controlling both sounds. But if we click on those two sounds, you'll see that this first toms part is here and it's panned completely centrally. And the second part is as well. Now, by themselves, these two parts are actually really similar. They're giving us lots of sort of low, mid-range and bottom-end weight. They sound like this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to take this first sound, I'm going to pan it. I'm going to take it across to the left. And I'm going to keep the other sound just in the middle right now. We'll begin to hear the mix stretch. So if we take the other sound and take it across by the same amount, then we've effectively got a pair of sounds which are nice and wide. And if we put that back into context with the other beat elements, then I think we'll find that the whole of the sort of beat world is a little bit more interesting. Okay, so that's a nice step in the right direction. The next thing I'm going to do is to take the hi-hat part and I'm going to put this through an auto panner. Now, there are loads of these. I'm going to use Pan Man from Sound Toys, and I'm going to select, at least initially, a preset here which is going to just get things moving across sort of 2 bars. This preset's quite a useful starting point. It's called 2 bar wide slow MIDI, and what that does is to give me a 2 bar pan move. And what I can do here is to adjust the overall width so I can make that even wider, or I can narrow it up so it doesn't move quite as far left and right. I want to keep this quite wide, but what I am going to do is to change the smoothing so that rather than it going really smoothly from one side to the other, it's going to kind of rush through the middle, rush to the edges and stay there a little bit longer than it would before, so that effectively for a longer period of time the hi-hat is away from the central position. Let's just hear that. Okay, and again, let's just put that in context with the other beats. Okay, I like that more at 1 bar, and I've just eased off the smoothing a little bit so it's not quite as jumpy from one side to the other. It's spending a little more time in the middle. But now, suddenly, across those toms and that hi-hat part, we've got more width now just being added to the drum world. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to take this synth part, which is here. I'll keep the drums in so we've got them some context for them. And this synth part at the moment sounds like this. So you can hear there's a reverb on it, which I'm adding from Shimmer, Valhalla Shimmer, but there's also some stuff that's natively coming from Omnisphere as well. But to this sound, what I'm going to do is to add a delay. Now, what tends to happen when we add delays, of course, is that we get these lovely echoes. I'm going to use H delay from Waves, and I'm going to use the stereo version of that. And when I bring this in, first of all, I can choose a speed. I'm going to go for this dotted eighth note to start with. I'm going to turn off the analog circuit so it doesn't hiss at me. Now, what I'm going to do is just have a listen to this sound. And actually, we will solo this just for a second, just so we can hear it completely by itself. So here is a delay, just acting as you'd expect it to for an eighth note delay with some feedback. Okay, so that's fine. What I'm going to do is to put on the ping pong option, which means that all of these delays are now going to move. They're going to jump from one side to the other. And suddenly now we've got some stereo movement in this delay. This is another really nice way of just getting the sounds out of the middle. So we've now got a sound which is panned centrally. So the original synth part is in the middle, and then its delays are now a little wider than they were before. Let's put those back in with the beats. Okay, so we've added and enhanced the stereo field another way. Next sound I'm going to bring into the mix is this pad sound. Now to this sound, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this effect, this universal audio effect from Brainworks, which is the BX Digital V3. And I'm just going to select one dial here, which is this stereo width option. Now, if I turn this up considerably, a lot in fact, we'll hear the difference immediately. So you can hear just by using that one dial, what I'm doing is massively spreading a stereo field. Now, I wouldn't want to do this across the entire mix because it would really lose the sort of stuff that I need to be in the middle, like the bass line and the middle of the beats would suddenly get weird and get really smeared across the stereo field. But with sounds like this, which are kind of airy and sort of just sitting in the background, adding stereo width, even to this extent, this is a pretty seismic increase, I think will work in the context of the piece. Let's have a listen to the whole thing. That's working well. And the last thing I'm going to do is to open up, I've got this sort of output chain on this mix. Should really be doing that in a separate project, but just to show you in context here, what I can also do is to grab the stereo imager plugin, which is part of the overall chain, and have a look at how this could be used across the whole mix. So this is basically sitting in the output chain just before the final loudness maximizer. And this stereo imager allows me to basically say, okay, well, in different frequency bands, what do I want to do to stereo width? And you can see that I'm actually narrowing things up below 167 hertz, so making the bottom end even more mono compatible. But what I could do would be to smear the top end of this a little bit more, just so we're adding additional stereo width to the overall mix. And again, if we boost this considerably and just bypass this so that we're not actually hearing it to start with, we'll then punch it in and you should be able to hear the difference quite clearly. So again, I'm just focusing on two bands towards the top end, and obviously I've slightly overcooked this on purpose, but you can just begin to hear how the whole mix just opens up when we pay consideration to working with assorted ways of working with stereo width. And remember, the only times that we've actually touched the pan dial as far as the mixer is concerned is within this stack of these two toms. Otherwise, everything we've done to widen the stereo field has been done either with plugins like Panman or BX3, and there are just so many ways in which it's possible just to sort of enhance stereo width. It's worth really thinking about how you could use those tools creatively.